switching gears a little bit, for this audience, talk about Web3.
So a lot of you in your 20s, 30s, and 40s don't realize that you just became your parents by dismissing NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
The same way you're shitting on NFTs is the same way that your parents shit on social media,
and
shit
internet.
on cell phones,
Yeah.
shit on the internet. And like, it's a cold shower for a lot of people to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's the point. Web3 means a lot of things, but the thing that we're all focusing on right now is the consumer blockchain. The blockchain is confusing to people because people bring their internet brain to the blockchain. The blockchain is different than the internet. It's decentralized servers versus centralized servers. There's a lot. It allows for ownership. The internet doesn't. The joke of, well, I'm going to right click and save it. Well, I could take a photo with that dog in here and make pretend it's mine. Like, oh, by the way, Web 2 social media, people make way more pretend of owning something than on Web 3.
Sure.
Because on Web 3, I can look up if your NFT in your bio is something you own. In Web 2 social media, the guys that go out on a Thursday night in Vegas or LA, stand next to an expensive car and try to claim it their own is much higher than people talk about. Fake watches, fake handbags, like there's a lot of fronting.
It's almost like Web3 is the antidote to
it 100% is.
Web 2.
Yet everyone's making the hot take joke that you can right click and save, which is the ironic part of the whole thing. Humans need to survive, need to love, and need to communicate. Food and water, shelter, love, and most of all,
connection.
We need to communicate. Humans talk a lot, we write a lot, we do a lot of things, but the number one way that human beings communicate is through the things they buy. It is the number one thing. The entire globally, the entire fashion industry would not exist if people didn't need to communicate through their purchases. Once people understand that truth, why somebody buys a Mercedes-Benz, why all of us are literally wearing the clothes we're wearing right now, the haircuts we have, the facial hair, like all of it, we need to communicate. NFTs are going to create the biggest economic reality of our need to communicate. The reason kids want Fortnite skins is to flex in their world. Their world is Fortnite. Why does somebody want a blue check? Why do people come here and say, hey, I want to work here, can I
in
get
the
a blue check?
Instagram world?
That's a digital thing.
Yeah.
You don't own that. You don't even own that. You're renting that from Instagram. But why do you want it? Why do you want 1 million followers? Why do you want it? We're living in a digital world. And the next step of that is ownership. But right now, everyone's focus is on the collectability and the art part with a hint of utility. What's going to happen over the next decade is it's going to be utility. That's where you'll see the blockchain really shine. It will be utility with a hint of collectability.
Okay, so give
art.
an example of that.
You buy a Louis Vuitton bag and they give you a receipt, but it's an NFT. That's utility. You've got to get a receipt. But that piece of art was done by a young female artist that 7 years later got famous, and now your receipt is worth $8,000 and you sell it. That's taking a mundane piece of paper, throwing garbage. Madison Square Garden, not too far from here. 6 years from now, you go to the game, it's not a QR code, it's an NFT. The NFT read it, it's a collectible. That night, the Bronny drops 90 points in the Garden, and everybody goes crazy. Now that becomes a collectible.
Yeah, sure.
You're leaving the Garden, and you're getting offers for $400 for that NFT because it's a collectible. But it was a utility. It got you into the place. Your triple bracelet at Coachella, it's an NFT. 6 years later, people are collecting so there's a hint of collectability, but it was utility. And the reason that's going to happen is for Coachella, instead of bullshit bracelets, an NFT with some design on it, and then you sell it for $800. They're getting
great margin. Yeah.
They're getting 10% royalties. Everybody's getting into the record business. Everybody's getting into the publishing business, and it's going to affect everything. Music. No longer are you going to sign with a record label. You're going to sell an NFT to get 20% of the royalties of your new project. Now your fans are making a piece of the money from Spotify, not the label. It's going to change the world, and everybody is underestimating. What about consume to earn? What about if I check in with my wallet on Barstool, and after 6 hours of consuming video, I get a free NFT?
Yep. So talk a little bit about how you incentivize the book. With
right.
an
So
NFT.
this book is like will always be a legendary book in the book world because I sold 1.2 million copies in 3 hours, which is insanity. I mean, almost no book ever reaches 1 million copies sold. And it was because if you bought 12 copies of this book, I gave you an NFT. Now, what's really crazy is a lot of people got made fun of it on Twitter and social when this was going down because people were like, bought 960 books. And of course, if you're like having dinner that night, what'd you do today? Ironically, I bought 960 copies of the same book. They're like, what? But what ended up happening is the NFT that I dropped in December is called VFriends Book Games. So I turned it into like this game. All of the tokens are worth a fortune more. They're double, triple what people paid for it. Plus they got the books. And some people got very rare ones. I mean, there was a guy who bought 24 books and got one of the characters, the Time Machine Tiny Ogre. There's only 15 of them out of the 125,000. He bought 24 books, aka $480.
Yeah, what's his NFT worth?
He sold his NFT for $128,000, I think.
It's amazing. Good for him.
Good for him.
That's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but that's lottery and like Mazel Tov. But more importantly, every single person that bought the books, I think the price right now of the floor of book games is like 0.25, right? Something in that range. And at the price that it's currently at, like you're really talking about $500. So like minimally, no matter what, every person that spent $240 got the 12 books. Many used them as gifts, donated to high schools, all this other stuff. But they also got an asset. Plus, that asset is going to be the way that you get series on the friends list to Series 2 VFriends, which has a ton of hype going into the spring this year, which will have another chance. But this is what I love about being an owner of an NFT project. You can make it valuable for your audience. You're the central bank.
Sure.
Everybody sees people with audiences come in and they get worried. Is it going to be bad? It should be good if the person has good intent.
Yep.